So we're talking with you today about getting your message across. And as she said, I am Jeremy Hoffpauir, Creative Marketing Director for Oklahoma Center for Nonprofits. And our mission is empowering nonprofits to achieve excellence in their missions. And we do that through training, helplines, consulting, shared financial services, advocacy support, and some other areas like that. So, as we're talking today, these things that we're talking about are things that we work on, that we deal with on a daily basis. So just a little bit of a background about myself. I have worked in advertising, marketing, and design for over 25 years now. So been doing that for quite a while, and I've been in the nonprofit industry for 10 years. And then I've done everything from creating ads for phone books to managing publications for international fundraising projects. I've managed real estate mass mailing programs and mass email marketing programs. So just, a broad range of different things that I've gotten to dip my toes in. And like she said earlier, the jack of all trades thing, where we just kind of have a little bit of experience in a lot of different areas, and that all comes in very useful. So Lynn, if you could give us a quick introduction, a little bit about yourself as well, then we'll get started.
Hi, I'm Lynn Sasser. I am a graduate from Oklahoma State University. My degree is in public relations. My first job after school was at SAID in Tulsa, and then I worked for OSU Tulsa. Then I was recruited to work in oil and gas. And so I moved to Oklahoma City, and after that, I started my career in nonprofits. I've done marketing and social media for all types of organizations. Oklahoma International Bluegrass Festival, I still do marketing, social media. I've set up almost every organization in Guthrie, where my parents are from, with their social media and marketing plans. And now I am in graduate school at OU and am doing social media at OKCNP.
Yeah, Lynn is very busy doing school and working and everything else. So thank you, Lynn. All right. Today we're going to talk to you about the 3 Ds of getting your message across. First of these being developing your message. Second one being delivering your message, and then determining the effectiveness of your message. And I put in parentheses kind of maybe the more recognizable terms that you might see these under, which would be branding, marketing, analytics. And we'll just kind of go through these. I think what we'll probably do is I'm going to talk about the first 2 on this list. Lynn will talk about the last one. And we can, after each section, maybe just take a couple of minutes to answer some questions if any come up. So let's just jump right on in here to developing your message or branding. So what is messaging? So when you're talking about marketing and branding, messaging would be your key points or messages that an organization uses to talk about itself. So these are the things, and it doesn't have to be, a bunch of paragraphs or, pages and pages of information. It's just really the key points, the things that you want other people, you want your organization to talk about toward other people. So it's kind of a from your organization to someone else. So this isn't necessarily what their perception of you is going to be. This is going to be the messaging that you are projecting. It's essential for a successful marketing campaign. And the reason for this is that for you to have a successful marketing campaign, you have to know what it is that you're talking about. You have to have that message already developed. You have to have it already ready, which is this next part, which is pre-approved for use. So anytime you're doing a marketing campaign and it's about your message, you need to already know what your message is going to be. So this isn't the sort of thing where you decide you're going to do a marketing campaign and then you go sit down, write out your message, and then start doing it. You need to already have all this set up and part of your branding. So we're going to talk a little bit about why it's important. Messaging ensures that everyone in the organization who needs to communicate with anyone outside the organization can do so with a common set of messages or common understanding of what people should hear from them. So the main reason for this is that you've got however many people work at your organization. For us, we have over 20, I think 24, 25, maybe more than that now. And if you have different people inside your organization that have a different idea of what your organization's message is, it can be really confusing for people on the outside when they're hearing people from inside the organization giving different messages. So the idea here is that we have, as you can see, this graphic shows here, inside the organization should be portraying one message, a common message that goes to those outside the organization. Now, there might still be some, discussion inside the organization what that message is, but if you're going to be out there, if you want your employees, it doesn't matter if they're marketing or not. You might have someone who's working a clerk job at, Walmart or whatever, but they still need to know what that message is because they have interaction with customers. They're interacting, they're saying things that people outside your organization are hearing. So it's important that everyone in your organization understands what your message is and knows what it is and can share that with others, and that you're projecting that same message across the board. So messaging should first express the main idea you want people to understand and remember about your organization. So this includes your mission, your values. What do you do? What do you want people to remember? Part of being, with you being members of a board, a lot of your work in your message is going to be in this area, the developing, which is going to be, coming up with a mission, making sure you know what the mission is, what are your values, what do you do? This is part of what you're going to be doing as a board, is really helping establish those and carrying those out. So maybe if you could just think a little bit about where you are right now, what is your organization's mission? If anyone would like to share, you're welcome to share. Otherwise, just maybe take a moment just to think about that. Do you know what your organization's mission is? Does everyone know? If you don't, you probably should.
Jeremy?
Yes.
So one thing that I notice is that sometimes the mission statements are kind of complicated to remember and they feel stilted when we say it. How important is it that we all use the exact same words versus we use our own words, but we convey the same meaning?
My personal opinion is that if it conveys the same meaning, you're good. I know that it can get really complicated, and honestly, if your mission statement is so complicated that you can't remember it, you might need to rework your mission statement a little bit. Like for the Oklahoma Center for Nonprofits, ours, empowering nonprofits. So basically what we do, we empower nonprofits to achieve excellence in their mission. So it's a really short statement about what we do. So something real simple like that. But if you can articulate what your mission is, even if you miss a few words or don't get it exactly right, I think you're on the right track. It's whenever that mission, whenever you either don't know at all or that message that you're saying is not anything like what other people are saying. So it's really just making sure that you're all on the same page when it comes to that mission or to that message.
I love that. I think that alleviates some stress. Oh my gosh, I can't remember the exact words. Well, no, what it convey the main purpose.
Yeah, and we've had a few iterations of our mission at Oklahoma Center for Nonprofits too, but even our different iterations are very similar, and I think it's still that getting the message across, even if it's not word for word or exactly perfect. But like I said, if you don't know what that is, definitely go look that up. Make sure you commit to memory what your organization's mission is, what that message is that you're wanting to tell people. For one thing, as a board member, it's hard to tell your staff that they should go out and do that if you're not willing to do it. So it kind of also gives you an incentive to encourage them to also share that same message. All right, so I put a couple of examples in here. So we have Apple. And I just want you to think for a minute, what do you think Apple's brand message is? So when you see Apple brand, you see their icon here. What do you think is their message? Anybody can feel free to jump in.
technology.
Okay. That's good. Anybody
There's
else?
some good ones in the chat thread too. So think about innovation, innovative, think different. Mercedes remembers their ad campaign from the day.
Yep. Those are good. And it's obvious that they have a brand message, right? I mean, it's one of those things where we could all come up with something. Those are some good examples that you all gave. What about to our next one, Nike here? What do you think Nike's brand message is?
And type in the chat. If you got ideas, or if you're brave and unmute yourself.
We got the slogan down for sure. Just do it.
I see fast moving energy.
I like that. That's good. Yep. The best. Yep. Yeah, those are good. So I think it's probably safe to say that Apple and Nike do a pretty good job of getting their brand message across. So I think it's a good idea. We can look at, even though we're working in the nonprofit arena, you can still look to some of these bigger companies and get a good idea of how we should be doing things, because the same idea of brand message carries down to the nonprofit industry as well. All right, let's keep moving here. All right, messaging should, well, there we go. Number 2, resonate with the audience you're targeting. So who is your organization's target audience? One of the things that my supervisor, she's our VP of marketing, that she has told me, I think we get to the point sometimes where we think that we have multiple audiences. And she pointed out that to me that we really don't have multiple audiences. We have one audience that you can segment out into smaller audiences, but your brand or your messaging really is targeted toward one audience. So for OKCMP, our target audience is Oklahoma nonprofit organizations, their staff and board, those interested in starting or donating to a nonprofit. So it's really, our target audience is basically anyone that has anything to do with Oklahoma nonprofits at some level. They're going to be a target audience for us. Now, we may have individual, micro messaging that we use for very specific audiences within that, but our overall messaging is really going to be able to target every one of those people in that audience. So as you think about your own organization and your messaging, think about who your audience is. Who are the people that are listening to you? Who are you speaking to? And rather than try to get too far down the weeds, really open up and think about it from a broad sense. And then later on, you can distinguish that out if you need to, but figure out who that large main audience of yours is. Why should your audience pay attention to what you're saying? So this is an important thing too, because, and why is your message important? But even if you know who your audience is and you have a great message, the question is, why should they listen to you? So what are you bringing that they need to know or that they don't know? Or how are you going to change their lives or help them change someone else's life? There's all these parts of what about your message is going to speak to these people that are your target audience? And your message should really resonate with that. It should be something that your audience can relate to and that they understand and will be interested in. So there's definitely a level of making sure that your message is important to your audience.
Jeremy, one of the things that I'm thinking of as you're talking, and you were talking about you only have one audience, but sometimes in nonprofits, we do get confused because we have one set of audiences that might be the client that participates in our service. And then we have another set of audiences, which are the people we're hoping will donate to our service.
Right.
And, they may pay a different attention to different media, different messages might resonate. I remember running an arts organization and we got so used to promoting the things we were doing to funders as being educational. We forgot that we needed to promote them to our audience as being fun, because we're so used to using that education language.
Yeah, and I think what when we're talking about that, we're talking about the difference between your key messaging and your, targeted messaging. So for instance, like with our mission for Oklahoma Center Nonprofit, empowering nonprofits to achieve excellence in their missions. Well, that's something that appeals to donors because they want, if they're going to donate to us, they want to know that we're helping nonprofits achieve their mission. That's why they donate to us. And then also that's the message we want to send to nonprofits that are our clients, because that's, how we're helping them. So I think when we're talking about your main key message really needs to be something that is applicable to all of those different people. And then as you're doing, now when you're doing like a donor letter type thing or trying to raise money, you won't use the same language for the donor in that situation as you would if you're trying to reach clients to come into your for your services. But that's that's a little further down the line. I think sometimes we jump ahead to that point and focus on those micro messages before we get our main key messaging set up.
Good point.
So I would say there definitely is room for that. It just maybe is a little further down the road in the messaging structure.
Thank you.
All right, so for audiences, who do you think is Apple's audience? Oops, go back here. Who does Apple target their advertising toward? Tech sector, okay. Everyone who uses a computer, that's a good one. They have a pretty broad audience. Definitely creatives. If anyone who's worked in graphic design knows that that's kind of the industry standard. So definitely there. When you think iPhones and iPads and things like that, it's anyone who uses a computer who uses tech for anything really. What about Nike? Who do you think Nike targets? What's their target audience? Urban hipsters. Maybe so. Active is definitely, active people who are interested in athletics.
Maybe people who want to look athletic even when they're not.
There's that too. I read a report not too long ago about that, about how their marketing efforts, they've kind of switched a little bit. They used to really target just the pure athletes, and recently they've tried to go that direction where it's what do they call it? Athletic fashion. There's a term.
Athleisure.
That's what it is.
Athleisure.
Thank you. Yes, that's what it is. That they kind of have moved in that direction. So yeah, that's interesting. They kind of maybe they changed. They realized that their audience was a little different. It's changing on them, and so they've adapted their messaging and their strategy for that. So yes, definitely. All right. Moving on. Messaging should articulate clearly and concisely what you need to communicate about. So make your words count. Less words often means more impact. And I want to clarify here that when I say less words, I don't necessarily mean, say as few words as possible, but be more focused with your words. I've actually seen reports that suggest that, certain formats, when you're talking about, long form content like blogs and things like that, more words can actually be more interesting to people if something is longer. But the trick is to making sure all those words are focused. So you're not using a bunch of words you don't need to use to get your point across. So when I say make your words count, that's really what I'm saying is don't use 5 sentences to say something you can say in one. Be really focused, get your point across concisely, and you'll have a much better impact with it. And then you can approach that like a tagline or a slogan. So your mission statement, in a lot of ways, is your nonprofit's tagline or your nonprofit slogan. And so when you look at it from that perspective, what we talked about earlier about it being, something that shouldn't be so convoluted you can't remember it. That kind of goes along the same lines here. Making sure that you're using your words effectively, that it's concise and easy for people to remember. Because if you're having a hard time remembering it and it's your organization, the people that you're trying to get that message across to you sure aren't going to remember it. All right, so what do you think? Anyone know what Apple's tagline is or was? Well, I just gave it to you. There you go. I was trying to highlight it out, but think different. That was the one that they went with. And then what about Nike? A bunch of y'all put in what Nike's was earlier, so that's an easy one. Just do it. So it tells you something if you can remember their taglines. The Apple one was from a long time ago. I think they still use that a little bit, maybe not as much as they used to. But so how do you come up with this messaging? First, the main thing you're going to do is do your homework. So most of us probably have, our organizations probably already have organizational goals, objectives, and a marketing strategy. So you probably have a lot of this stuff already, saved somewhere, or someone's been talking about it. So, go back, refer to what you've already got on the books, what you've already figured out. Use that as a starting point. Learn from your staff and board members what they think your organization's message, voice, and values are. Our VP of marketing just recently, she's kind of bringing us through we're reworking our brand a little bit. And one thing she wanted to do, she just started with us a few months ago, and she's been interviewing employees to find out, what do the employees think our message is? And then, as she gets that information, she can take what we already think our message is, pull it all together and make sure that we're all sharing the same message. So she's learning from, the past of our organization, what we already have in place, and what our people already think our message is, whether they're right or wrong, or somewhere in between, just to get an idea.
That's a fun process if you can take part in it at a board level. We did a rebrand about a year ago at Leadership Tulsa, and I've been involved with them in other nonprofits I've been involved with.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. It can be a lot of work, but it's definitely fun and interesting to see what people come up with too. Part of doing your homework is also confirming the audience for specific messaging. So we talked about the audiences. Make sure that make sure that your message, whatever you come up with, fits with the audience that you're going to be talking to. Your overall messaging will be the same, but you'll end up eventually coming up with specific messages that you use with certain groups like funders, customers, etc. So we talked a little bit about that earlier. And then you identify keywords. So you're going to look for very specific words that are kind of trigger words for what your messaging is, and those are a lot of times will show up in your values. Is one of the places you'll see that a lot. You'll see those keywords show up in your value statement. And then you're going to craft key messaging statements from all this. So you come up with all this stuff, all this information, do interviews, find your keywords, talk about your audience, and you're just going to craft those key message statements from that. And then those key message statements are really what you build everything else off of. That's your base for your branding. So before you do any of your, all your logo work and all that stuff, make sure you know what your organization's message is, and then everything else just kind of flows out of that. All right, so that's all I had for that, for the first D, which is developing your message. Do we have any other questions about developing before we move on to the delivering part? See, pull my chat up here. Okay.
There's nothing in the chat thread. I'll definitely interrupt you if there is. Right. I know sometimes it's hard to find the chat thread when you're presenting.
I'll just trust you to do that. Then feel free to jump in if somebody asks the question that we need to address. All right, well, let's just move on to the delivering your message. And so this is going to be kind of more what you consider traditional marketing. We probably won't spend quite as much time in this section. A lot of this stuff is going to be things that your staff is probably going to handle, maybe more so than the board does. But I think it's a good idea for everyone to have a grasp on what's out there and how it all works together. So delivering your message. When it comes to sharing your message, there are two primary media channels you can use. So you basically have digital and print. That's where most of your stuff is going to fall. There is a third. You have word of mouth as well. And 50 years ago, word of mouth was probably a bigger, maybe a bigger deal than it is now. It's still important, but that word of mouth is something you have a lot less control over That's just kind of, what other people are saying about you. So, you'll see this is probably going to fall more under the reviews, like Google reviews and Facebook ratings and stuff like that. And you have a little bit of control, but that's mostly, you can control what you're saying through your digital and print. And then hopefully you're getting your message out well enough that the people that are, doing word of mouth or giving you reviews or understand what your message is and are also passing along that same message. But that is out of your control. So we're going to mainly focus on what we can control, since that's the part that, well, you can control it. So that's what we're going to make sure we're working on. As far as digital marketing goes, you have the website. My philosophy for website is function over beauty. It's great to have a gorgeous looking website that everyone oohs and ahs over, but if you can't find anything on it, then you wasted it. So I'm always going to say, when it comes to website, make it work first, and then if you can make it pretty, then do that. But make sure it works first. Make sure that it's easy to navigate, that people can find what they want on your website. Listen to your website users. You'll get feedback. We have an event or something and someone says, man, I wanted to register for that event you had, but I could not find where it was. Or they send you an email, I can't find something. When that happens, rather than say, oh, it's just because they don't know where to look. If they can't find it, you need to find out a way to help them find it and make it easier for people to find. There's usually a reason for that. So definitely pay attention to what feedback you get from users as they're trying to navigate your website. There's a number of different website programs you can use. WordPress, Yahoo Small Business. We used them to design a landing page for our law and finance conference that we did earlier this year. And I found the Yahoo Small Business website very easy to use and very cost effective. So if you're looking for something that's not too expensive, that's a good way to go. But we're in an age, it used to be, 10, 20 years ago, you'd have to pay someone to go out and build your website for you and manage it. But everything is so, there's so many online editors and so forth these days, it's not nearly as difficult to get that done now as it used to be. Definitely a lot of options out there. Next is email. So for your email marketing, you want it to be simple, to the point. As we said, you're delivering your message, so make sure you're getting to the point of your message and not jumping around it too much. It's important that your email is easy to recognize. So if someone gets an email from you in their inbox, they know it's from you without having to, scroll down halfway through the thing before they see anything that, that indicates it's from you. Should be instantly recognizable. And there's a number of different vendors you can use for that. We use Constant Contact, which is really good. MailChimp. If you use like a management system like Net Community or Your Membership or things like that, some of those have email systems built into them, email delivery systems. Some of those are easier to use than others. Email delivery is kind of a tricky one when it comes to how much knowledge you have to have. Constant Contact and MailChimp are fairly user-friendly if you're not real adept at using HTML coding language and stuff like that. But outside of those two, you start getting into more and more technical work if you don't really have a lot of experience doing that. So social media, Lynn's going to talk more about social media here in a minute. I did want to drop this into the digital marketing section here, just since it's part of this. It should be engaging. That's your main goal with social media, is to engage interaction from people. And it should be consistent across platforms, but not simply copied. So you don't want to, you can set up, they have social media now where you can set it up where you could post something to like Facebook and have it auto copied to all of your other social media. And at first, your first thought is, oh, that's great. That means I don't have to do as much work. Problem is, it also means that everyone sees the exact same thing and you don't get an effective engagement from it. So that's definitely a you do not want to do this. So definitely be consistent, but not copied. And then social media is free for the most part. So if you're not doing it, you really should be, because it's and there's no cost associated with it outside of if you want to hire someone to manage it for you. You can do ad campaigns that you can spend money if you want to increase engagement and get additional exposure. And we've done that with a few things, and it can definitely be effective if used correctly. But I mean, it's free, so do it. And Lynn will give us a little more information about that a little later in the presentation, a little more detail. And then Google Ads for nonprofits, and this is one that we haven't done very well with Oklahoma Center for Nonprofits, but we're trying to get in on this and get it figured out. But I don't know if anyone out there who's watching has engaged in this or not, but they offer free advertising basically to set up for nonprofits to use Google Ads. I want to say it's $10,000 a month or something like that. It's quite a bit. It's a grant program, and I would suggest that you at least look into it and see if that's something that you can get set up and use. I mean, if they're giving us free money, we might as well use it, right? So take advantage of that as another opportunity. And I think that's it for those are the main digital marketing channels. And then as far as print marketing, when you're delivering your message from print, you have direct mail, which comes, I think most of us probably either do this or have done this at some level. It can come in many formats: postcards, catalogs, donor letters, brochures. Most of us have probably been involved in a donor mailing of some sort, so that that's what this falls under. And it should be attention getting, have a focused message. As far as design on things like these go, if you have a graphic designer on staff, they can use a Creative Cloud. Adobe's a fantastic program for designing those sorts of things, but not everyone has that. There are other vendors. Publisher's okay. Canva is really good for, you can do social media and other graphic design with it without having really any graphic design experience. So obviously you're a little limited according to what you can do with it, but it's definitely better than not having it, not having it at all. So that's something you could explore. Press releases are a really powerful tool for nonprofits. Most of our press organizations will release information for us if we let them know that it's happening. So there are standard press release formats. You can find one really easy online. Just do a Google search, or if you want, you can ask us. I think Lynn has one that she uses for our press releases, so we'd be happy to share that with you as well. But definitely take advantage of press releases. Again, this is one of those things that doesn't cost you anything. It just costs you a little bit of time to write it up and send it off. So definitely take advantage of that. It's an easy way to get the word out there that is free to you and doesn't really take a whole lot of effort outside of just a little bit of time to write it. And the last thing, as far as print goes, I wanted to talk about is print advertising. And if you're like us, you probably don't have a really huge marketing budget to just go out and buy ads left and right all the time. So, but that is an option out there. If you have some money, you can buy print advertising in magazines, newspapers. We do a little bit with the Journal Record and Tulsa World and Oklahoman on occasion. Usually around our events, because those are things that we really are trying to get the word out there to a mass audience. So it can be expensive, but it does give you a broader reach. So you have a reach outside of your the normal people that are following you. So if you're trying to broaden that, that's definitely a direction you could look at going. As far as all this goes, when it comes to delivering your message, I like to think of it as a composition. So it's kind of like music. So, if any of you that have been involved in music, if you have a 4-part, you have your tenor and your soprano, alto, and bass, and they're all singing by themselves. They sound great just by themselves, but when they all come together and they're all singing together, you get beautiful music out of it. And I like to think of messaging and marketing the same way, and that is that if you're doing your digital marketing and your print marketing, and you're doing all these different channels, and you're doing them well and in conjunction with each other, you're going to get a much stronger, more powerful, more beautiful message coming out of it than if you just try to do one of them on its own. So I do have an example here. Let me go to carry your cohesive message across multiple channels for maximum effect. So here we have Visions is one of the events that we do at Oklahoma Center for Nonprofits. And this is an example. The image on the left here is a postcard that we send out. The image on the right is a donor letter that we send. You can see that visually they're very similar. They carry across the same theme. If you read the messaging, it's going to be similar, celebrating 40 years of nonprofit leadership. That's really what Visions is about, is we're celebrating nonprofit leaders, giving them awards, celebrating with their accomplishments. And those are both print items. And then for digital, some of the things that we did, this is one that we have on our website. This is just a graphic that we use for our Visions honorees. And then we have an email that we sent over here on the right where we announced our honorees. And so you're gonna, as you read through those and even looking at them, you're gonna get the same message coming across. So no matter what media you happen to see that message come across in, it's gonna be consistently either the same or at least the same message that you're going to get from every one of those. So I would just suggest whatever method you use for delivering your message, that it's consistent and works together as a whole. All right, so that's what I have for that section. The last section is going to be the determining the effectiveness of your message. And so Lynn's going to talk with us a little bit about analytics and how to make sure that your message is doing what you want it to do.
When we look at analytics, we look at our social media, our constant contact. I also have a Google alert set up to receive an email anytime a newspaper, magazine, anybody mentions us in the media. And we used to create a booklet anytime we were mentioned, and that was in our analytics as well. The focus of this will be on our social media analytics, and simply because there are 3.8 billion users worldwide that are on social media. It is the fastest and easiest way to reach people. Oh, I don't have control of the PowerPoint. I was trying to change the page. Can we go to the next slide? Again, it tells us how our efforts are performing. These are the most influential social media networks out there. Facebook is still the king with 2.5 billion users. Our theory is to choose platforms that work well for you and your audience that you can manage. Sure, there are tons of different social media platforms, but don't overextend yourself to where your messaging is not coming through clearly and concisely on your platforms. One of my desk mate that sits across from me has been like, let's get on Snapchat or TikTok. And I said, when you can manage it and you have time to do that, we can be on TikTok. But at this time, as an organization, we don't have time to spend cultivating those fun videos.
Yeah, that's such a challenge for so many of us because our people want to be reached wherever they happen to be most often. And so sometimes you do have to manage more than one channel.
Yes, and we really want to manage the channels that we have really well instead of managing several not so well. So why is it important to track analytics? Analytics tracks your audience behavior. It tracks how your message is received by your audience and how they engage in your message across your platforms. So it'll measure things such, how is your page doing? Where do your page likes come from? What posts did they specifically engage with? Did they like those posts? And then from there, did they follow your page? Your reach, that is who is seeing your message, not necessarily your followers, but the followers of your followers. And then is that reach leading your target audience to your page? what are people doing on your page, how they're interacting with it, how well those posts are performing. I like to see not only how our posts are performing compared to other posts that we create, but also how they compare to other organizations, other nonprofits that are similar to ours. We also use it to measure how successful our events are, especially on event pages. And in this past year, with everything going digital, everybody was watching things on Facebook Live, on our website, through our Vimeo page. Videos always do well. Whenever we post videos, our analytics go out the roof, so much that our data analytics team will message me and say, I think you sent the wrong information, you did a typo, and then I'll have to screenshot it to them and say, no, we did have 6,000 people view our page this month, which is astronomical for us. And then people always want to know that you're listening to them too. So with the analytics, it shows how quickly and well you're responding to people who are sending you those direct messages, those DMs. So analytics also show us the top interest of your followers, their demographics, their lifestyles, their behavior, their footprint. One thing when we really got deep into the weeds on Google Analytics, Twitter Analytics, we found out that a lot of our followers not only are women in the 25 to 35-year-old range, but are runners. So we started doing mini campaigns that engaged them through using tracks, running tracks, tennis shoes, people running. And so that really spoke to them on a deeper level. It also shows their engagement, likes, your tweet reach percentage, who's visiting your profile, which I look at that on Twitter because that shows how many people are coming to our profile to go to our website, which is another deeper level of our analytics. Analytics also show us the impressions and engagement people are getting on to your social media or interacting with it the time of day. So in the last few months, we've noticed people have been on our website at 10 o'clock every Wednesday during our sector call, but this last month, our engagement went up to 1 p.m. on Mondays. And I messaged Jeremy, I go, what is happening at 1 p.m. on Mondays? Why are people going to our website more that day? And we figured it was an email that went out over the weekend that sent invoices out saying you owe dues or you need to pay for a class. It also shows us what days we need to make sure we need to be engaging with our audience on specific platforms, and then how far into a video people are watching. Are they watching 3 seconds, 5, 10, and 30 seconds, or in complete video? So Google Analytics is probably my favorite out of all the analytics measurements because it measures how many people are going to our website. At Oklahoma Center for Nonprofits, we get somewhere around 65,000 visits a month. I think around 6,000 to 7,000 of those are unique users. So that's 7,000 people who are getting onto our website multiple times. It shows us how many pages they're visiting in each session, which pages they visit, how long they're on the website, how they're engaging in the website, if they're watching videos, downloading white papers is one of our big ones. People want to know how to start a 501c3, how to engage with legislators, and then I want to see how they got to the website. And it'll tell me if they came to our website through our Facebook, through our Instagram stories, Twitter, emails. Another organization's website that has our page linked to this. And so we really want to make sure how they're getting to our website is staying updated and fresh in their minds. And then are they visiting another website from our organization's website? And we sometimes link to how to contact your senator or how to get onto National Council for Nonprofits website, see other data, the Census Bureau, and different things that we are passionate about. In the last year, LinkedIn has added analytics to their pages. It wasn't there a year ago. So as our data team has been compiling all of our information, I said, I can't give you all of LinkedIn. This is as far as back as it goes. So LinkedIn measures the unique visitors to our page in the last 30 days. It tells us what type of job functions those visitors are in, where they live, new followers, post impressions, and then who's clicking on our website on it. We generally on our LinkedIn post Marnie's monthly op-ed, job postings, and then with our nonprofit law and finance conference, we really upped our LinkedIn engagement and actually ran an ad campaign from that. And then we run the analytics on paid promotions versus organic promotions to compare how we're spending our dollars and if it's valued. And with certain campaigns such as the Nonprofit Law and Finance Conference, we're really expanding our reach there to be a national reach. So it was really important for us to do paid campaigns in that instance because it was a really expanded audience than our normal reach. We use Constant Contact, as Jeremy said, and so in those analytics, it tells us how many emails were sent during a specific time frame, how many people opened specific emails, the percentage and amount, people who read the entire emails and actually scrolled through it, and did they click a link within the email. We have found that clicked links always occur more frequently at the top. So anything that you are really trying to promote needs to be at the top of that email. It's like when newspapers were above the fold, you always want your biggest spots of interest to be above the scroll.
Lynn, what is a good open rate for emails these days? Or, I mean, what would your target be? It seems overwhelming.
That is a great question, and I have that all coming up here. On average, it's 18%, but I will show you all of the target rates for national and then for nonprofits specifically. And that is a great segue into benchmarking. So as we talk about targets and where we want to be, we want to measure where we are through benchmarking. There are several organizations that release benchmarking, and many of them offer industry specific. So we are all a nonprofit, so that's what we'll look at when we get here. So being aware of marketing benchmarks help organizations understand content strategies and engage with their audience. Benchmarking can also help you direct to areas where there is room for improvement. So, and I know many times Jeremy and I in our meetings, and they'll say, oh, our engagement rate or open rate for emails is 24%. That seems really low. And I have to remind people gently that 18% is average across the board. And so we just discussed how it is general and industry specific on benchmarking, and how we can compare ourselves to similar organizations within our industry. So the average open rate for emails is 18%, for nonprofits is 25.5%. The click-through rate is 2.6%, which seems when we say our click rate is 4%, everyone's like, oh my gosh, that's so low. It is actually above average and right on target for nonprofits at 4.10%. The open rate is 14.1%, and for nonprofits, it's 15.8%. And we really look at that for a full month and what emails were the most clicked and opened and how they're engaging in that. We found that specific emails, people always want to see our members, our new members and renewing lists. That's been consistently our largest opened email. And then I am always curious to see where people unsubscribe to see what people find not engaging. So I want to know what people are not engaging in just as much as they're engaging in. So on Facebook, the average engagement rate is 0.08% of your followers, which I thought that is crazy low for what I thought it would be, but it's really not that low when you think about how many followers you have and then who you see engaging. I've noticed that, and we'll talk about this shortly, when we have special events and we have honorees such as Visions and they share it, our engagement rate shoots way up because they're now coming to our page for the first time and engaging, and then their followers are coming to our page. With Facebook, there's an average of 5.5 posts per week across the board. Nonprofits tend to make 9.2 posts per week. And on Instagram, the engagement rate is 0.98%, and then just at 1.5% for nonprofits. Average posts on Instagram are 4 posts per week. Instagram is really one of those pages where people don't want you posting all of the time. And you'll see some, like with Twitter, you can tweet all the time on Twitter, but on Instagram, people don't want more than 1 a day, really. And then again, here it is, tweets per week on average is 4.4 posts, and with nonprofits, that's 11.1. So that's almost 2 per day during the work week. And then how people engage, which with Twitter, we really paired up well when Donna Marie Brown was in town speaking about the census, and her team in Minnesota nonprofits really engaged with us. And so our engagement rate and reach during her visit skyrocketed. And so we did really well. And I mean, we texted maybe a couple of times before she came. And I said, you know, we're really going to try to get really involved with Donna while she's here. And her social media person was prepared for it. So if you know you have a campaign coming up and it involves another organization, getting that other organization ready and prepped really helps as well. So engagement is important because without engagement, social media is just media. There's no social aspect to it. So you want to make sure that what you're posting and putting out there is not only being engaged with other people, individuals, and organizations, but also that you're engaging with them as well. The more you engage with other pages and other organizations, the more likely they're going to engage with you, and you will have a stronger reach toward them.
So Lynn, I'd like to really highlight here too that this is an area that board members can help tremendously.
Yes.
Because if you follow your nonprofit on whatever social media you prefer and reshare up, see, I'm reading your mind.
Yes, and so I was going to post that as board members, this is probably one of the best things you can do for your organization is to like and favorite your organization's pages, comments, share them, tweet, click. I mean, really, liking is minimal, writing a comment really boosts that engagement, the reach, keeps it cycling in your followers' pages. So it really helps get the messaging out there for the organizations you support. So it again helps increase organic reach. It gives the audience also a greater sense of well-being. The more an organization interacts with their followers and their followers interact with them, it shows that the organization really cares. It provides customer care. Even if you get a negative comment on your social media, it is an opportunity to show your skills and assets and that you truly care about not only the people you're trying to reach, but also their reach as well. And it helps just them view your brand more favorably.
Nice. We are getting towards the end of our appointed hour, and look at that. That looks like a landing slide to me.
Yep. Thank you. I know we just downloaded a lot of information over a short period of time, so we appreciate the opportunity to come and share this with you. And Ed, you know, we're here to help too. So if you have any questions for us, feel free to send us messages. We're happy to help you out with stuff. I put our email on here, info@okcmp.org. Lynn and I both have access to that email address. That's our marketing email address. So feel free to send us an email if you'd like. You know, if there's anything that you'd like, if you'd like a copy of the press release sample or any other stuff that we talked about, feel free to just send us a message and we'll be happy to help you out and answer questions.
Great. Well, Michelle says, great info. Thanks so much for sharing it. Final question for you all. Do you have any upcoming classes that would be deeper dives into nonprofit marketing, or do you do any shared services in the marketing area?
We don't offer any shared services right now. We are currently working on our fall schedule. So I don't know that there's much out there at the moment. They're uploading new courses right now. So I would say within the next couple of weeks, you should be able to see what's out there. We do have a marketing course that we offer. And then I think we also offer a short social media, like a half-day social media course. I don't think those have been added to the schedule just yet, but those, I assume those will be part of the offering either in the fall or maybe in the spring. So you can definitely check that out on our website in the next couple of weeks and see what's available.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for your time, to our presenters for sharing your expertise, and to those of you on the call for learning together. And we appreciate your time, and we'll see you all out there in the wild, wild world of social media.
All right, thank you.